Welcome to IT Simplified. In today's session, we'll see different components which makes Microsoft Sentinel service and how to price them out. So let's get started. All right, so let's start with what is Microsoft Sentinel service. So first of all, it's a two-in-one solution. Now, when I say two-in-one, it means it consists of security event management, and then you can also orchestrate and have automated response. So it has two capabilities within this service. Now, the building block for Sentinel is Log Analytics Workspace. Now, if you have used Azure, you might also come across some of the other products which uses this service. For example, if you're utilizing Azure Monitor, Defender for Cloud, and obviously Sentinel. All they use the same service on which your Log Analytics Workspace, and then that's a building block for any of these three services that you're going to utilize, right? Now, when you're utilizing Sentinel, this can be also sometimes referred as Sentinel Workspace, which is nothing but Log Analytic Workspace. So not to be uh, confused with anything else, it's basically same thing. Now, when it comes to pricing it out, the cost is going to come from two things. One thing is the logs which are getting ingested and how much is the quantity for that, and how long you want to keep the data for. Now, this can be further broken down into what kind of logs, whether these are analytics logs or basic logs. Now, by default, when you configure this environment, all the logs which are being generated are as analytics log, but you can create data collection rules, also sometimes called DCRs, and then you can convert. So basically, sometime if you're utilizing like DNS logs or firewall, now these are all high volume logs. Maybe you don't want to ingest them as analytic logs. You can create data collection rules, and then you can ingest it as basic logs, because there are different price component for that. And if I'm not mistaken, and again depending upon the currency, it is close to $7 per gig for analytic logs, and for basic it is close to 1.48. Now, this is in Canadian dollar I'm talking about, and depending upon the currency, it might be different for you. But you can see there is a huge difference between the two. So, some of the logs which are high volume and you don't need to do query and doesn't require that kind of search, you can ingest them as basic log. Other thing is the data retention, for how long you want to keep it. Now, you can set this at the workspace level as well as at the table level. Now, at the workspace level, you can keep it up to 2 years. And during this, you have the full interactive query capabilities. There is not going to be separate charge for that. Obviously, if you increase the, let's say, if you start with 6 months or 3 months, then there is a separate cost for that. And then if you have increased that to 1 year, 2 year, then there is a separate cost for that. But during this time, you have this option of having full interactive query, but you can also change this at the table level. So I will show you on the portal where you can do, and then you can also change that to the table level, and you can tweak it. But you can also archive this, right? You can also archive this, and then there is a separate cost for that, and you can go all the way up to 12 years in this case, based on your company requirement and what is the compliance uh, requirements maybe for your organization. You want to keep certain logs maybe with full interactive query capability for certain time, and then you want to maybe archive that to a cool tier, if I can put it. So if I have to put this during the interactive query capability, if it's in the hot tier, the archive can be under the cool tier. Now once the logs are moved into the cool tier, and if you want to do search of logs, there is a cost associated. And even if you want to do, let's say, data restore, then there is a cost for that. And you can check the pricing calculator for these costs, but these are some of the options which are available for you, right? Something to point out. Now, also, when it comes to purchasing this service, you have this option of pay as you go, or you can use a commitment tier. Now, my recommendation is always to start with pay as you go, right? And once you know or have an idea about how many logs or what is the data per day you're going to ingesting, then maybe you can change it to commitment tier, which is typically 100 gig per day, for example. Then you can go to 200 gig per day, and if you go up the ladder, there is a discount for that, right? And I'm going to show you at the portal in a moment. But you can always choose between pay as you go as well as commitment tier. And with commitment tier, if your data ingestion is really high, there is a discount based on what tier you want. Now, if you want to move, let's say you start with and you have converted into 100 gig per gig per day. This is the ingestion that you're doing, and you want to move up, let's say, to 200 gig. Now that's instantaneous. There is no lag, and then you'll be converted into this second tier. Now, if you want to cancel, let's say, your commitment tier, you have to wait for 31 days. So there is a 31 days of waiting period if you want to cancel it or you want to downgrade that whatever commitment tier you're into. Something to point out, right? Now, other thing is you also might be utilizing some of the other services. Let's say Microsoft 365, let's say E5. I think there is A5 and there's some other options too. With this, you get free log injections up to 5 MB per user per day. Now, this can be, let's say, sign in logs, audit logs, right? It can be information protection logs. Now, if you're ingesting these kind of log up to this quantity, that will be part. You're not going to be charged separately for that. Now, on top of that, you also might be utilizing, let's say, Defender for Cloud, Plan 2. And with this, you get 500 MB of data ingestion per VM per day. So you're not going to get double billed. If you have this and then you still ingestion, then Microsoft Sentinel is going to give you that much of discount based on these particular services. And then again, in this also, there is specific security logs also we are talking about. And you can get the information of that from the Microsoft documentation, right? But again, coming back to the question of the cost component, the cost is going to come from these two things: long ingested and for how long you want to keep it. And then again, there are two different kind of log: analytics and basic log. You can keep the retention at the workspace level, but you can also tweak it at the table level. You can archive up to 12 years if there is a compliance reason that you need to keep the logs for that time. But if it's under the archive and if you have to search those logs, there is a separate cost. And if you want to restore, let's say, from cool tier to an hot tier, it means that you get the full interactive capability. Then there's a separate charges for that too. All right, so let me just actually show you on the Azure portal where you can configure this service. So I'm logged in with my credential. As I said, that this is built on Log Analytic Workspace, so I can either go straight into Microsoft Sentinel, or if I have a Log Analytic Workspace, I can uh, add that to my Sentinel service. So in this case, I already have. Now, if I want to create one, I can just go and click Create. You can see I have more than one workspace over here. So I can go and add these as part of my Sentinel. But since I've already done, I'm going to come out of this. Or otherwise, you can go and separately create a Loginatic workspace and go through the process of creating one by filling the resource group, giving the name, which region you want. You can tag it, obviously. And then once it is created, you will come to the Sentinel and click on Create, and it will be visible. And you just pick that and just click on the add, and it will be visible the way it is visible for me under the Sentinel service, right? So, but let me just go inside this. The first thing I want to show you is if I go and scroll down, you see I have this setting option. I'm going to go and expand this, and this will take you to the Sentinel pricing page. Right now, I'm under the pay as you go, which is close to $7 per gig. That's the current tier. Optionally, I can go and change it to the commitment tier. You can start with 100 gig per day, and you can see there is a 34% discount. And as you go up in the commitment tier, the discount goes increases. So if I go and expand this, you can see with Microsoft 365, you'll get that benefit allowance. Same thing for the Defender for Cloud. And if you go, let's say between you start with a commitment tier of 100 gig and you go 120 gig, then you're going to charge for those next 20 gig. It's again still be $4.61 per gig. But you can always cancel. You have to wait for 31 days. You can always upgrade. It's instantaneous. But I will recommend start with the pay as you go tier. Now, if I go under the workspace settings, you can see under setting, I have the usage and estimated cost. Now, this gives me some more control. Here I can see the usage detail, right? How much data was getting ingested. Now, if I go under the insights, that's where I will find the information about ingestion volume, how long I want to retain. I can always change it. But what I want is, if I want to put a daily cap of how much logs I want to ingest, I can do it from here by switching on the button to on, and I can change it over here. Let's say I want to ingest only 10 gigs of data every day, and I can specify here, right? That's one thing. Other thing is I can go and change my data retention. So if I go and expand this, you can see by default it is 30 days right now. I get free data ingestion up to data retention up to 90 days. But if you want, I can go all the way up to 730 days, which is 2 years. Now, again, as I mentioned, if you have that organization requirement and because of the company policy, you want to keep it for that long, you can always tweak it over here, right? Now, this is at the workspace level. Now, what happens if you want to change and tweak it at the table level and you want even more retention? So, what I can do is let me come out of this. Under settings, I can go under the table and let me pick one. Let's say for alert info, I'm going to select this and click on these three dots. And under manage table, you can see the test plan is analytics. Under data retention setting, I have this option of using the default workspace setting, which is basically 30 days, but I can uncheck this box and I can, at the table level also, I can tweak it, right? But let's say I want to use this default workspace setting. It means that interactive retention will be available for this period. It means I'm not going to pay separately in case I want to search anything during this period, right? Now, for the total retention period, I can go all the way up to 12 years. You can see. And you can see this interactive retention is highlighted with this blue color, and the rest is with this orange color. So this is the archive period, and this is the interactive retention. As I mentioned, under interactive retention, I have the full custom query capability. I can search it, search my logs. I can pull the data, not a problem. But when it's after 30 days it is moved under the archive period, then I need to pay in case I'm searching it or I'm even doing data restore. But this is, you can tweak it at the table level, right? So these are some of the ways you can customize your settings for your Lognatic workspace, and you can choose between a pay-as-you-go model or between a commitment tier. Hopefully, you found this useful. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.